magic happens when you put people in a room that are all wanting kind of the same thing, right? To better their lives, better their practice, better the lives around them, better their employees, all these things.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to another episode of Growth in Dentistry. I'm Katie Polson, and typically we spend a little bit of time housekeeping, but we don't have time for that today because I'm too freaking excited for who we have on the podcast.
Ditto.
Yes.
Known these two for a long time.
Curtis is here, and we have Dr. Craig Spodak and Dr. Peter Boulden with us today. And as I told them previously, this is a big deal for me because I've listened to every episode. I've read the book. Apparently, I haven't read Bulletproof Hygiene, which I've been chastised for, and I will get on after today.
Well,
However,
you didn't know about it in full
I know.
disclosure. Okay.
Yeah. We're going to get there though. I'm going to read it. And honestly, coming from a marketing background, I especially love the chapters on social media and marketing. I wrote notes. It was really great. So
When did you read that book, Katie? Just out of curiosity.
I read it a month ago. Yeah.
Greg, when was that content?
I was just having this conversation because funny enough,
Is it still relevant?
well,
I
one
don't
of
know.
my banker, which is kind of eerie to me, read the book cover to cover. So I'm going with a new bank, and he's I read your
think
book
there's
cover
some
to cover.
shelf life, Katie. But
No,
according to
it's still good. I listen. You know me, Peter. I'm one to tell you how good our book is.
Mhm.
It's still really good. It will be for a little while.
Yeah.
We made sure not to use certain things. Like we'd probably put in instead of there's some newer cultural references. Like I think
Craig.
the Cuomo brothers could have made it into our
The
book.
only thing that I caught in the social media reference was you didn't, TikTok wasn't around.
Yeah, wasn't even around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But other than that, it seemed to pertain really well.
guys,
And
what is
marketing
TikTok
changes so
real quick?
quickly.
What is that?
Whatever.
Meta
Wait,
universe.
is
what's that?
MySpace no longer a thing? Is that what you guys are going to tell
I'm
me?
sure that you're on there dancing. No, is
Yeah.
that how you mark it?
Oh my God, you saw that, huh? You've done your research, Katie. This is a little freaky. This might be a little shorter podcast. Let's wrap.
Or longer.
Oh, well, I've listened to you both. So today we're talking about Kickstarting 2022. This is kind of the theme for the month for us. And we're talking about work-life balance. And I'm really intrigued to talk about it with you because I've heard you guys discuss in previous podcasts that it's a myth a little bit. I've heard you talking about that with Dr. Boulden, that balance is a myth and it's not achievable. So let's first dive into that. Is balance obtainable for you? Tell us a little bit about your perspective on that.
Well, okay. So this is me.
Yes.
This is me.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think the getting balance in your life is a stressor in itself, right? It stresses us out. Oh my gosh, I feel so unbalanced, and I've been told I don't have to have it. I think when you get peace and give yourself some grace with the fact that there's going to be periods where you're going to be a way better family man per se than you are a business person, and then all of a sudden those scales are going to shift again. So I think we go through, like Naval says, I think we go through periods where we train and then we sprint and then we reassess. We rest and then we reassess. And that's okay. There's going to be periods where you're heavier in one area. The key takeaway, though, is just awareness. As long as you acknowledge the fact that, man, I've been head down working on business stuff. As long as you're aware about it and you kind of need to bring that lever back to kind of center again. I think that's all I think that takes the stress of, oh my gosh, am I spinning all these plates equally with equal RPMs? All these plates that I'm spinning, my family and philanthropy and my visions and all these things, my businesses, am I spinning them all equally? I think that's stressful in amongst itself.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a good point. In fact, that kind of brings me to a memory. One of my team members, because we talk about work-life balance here at Dental Intel. We talk about it. It's one of our core values. And this team member told me, hey, well, and to keep my work-life balance, when I am not working, I am not going to answer any emails, we use Slack or text or anything like that. I'm like, oh, so does that also mean that during work hours that you're not going to do any personal?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
If our expectation is either only focusing on one or the other, I think the balance comes to understanding that they're not going to be turning all at the same time.
And that's such a draconian comment from that person. like,
Oh,
right?
man,
Meaning like
it's
it's all or nothing. It's just binary, like I'm in or I'm out. And I think that becomes
that is.
unsustainable and a stress in itself again.
Mhm.
Craig, what do you think?
Well, I just think we don't have the silos that we make ourselves out to have. Like, I think that comes in. The first example that runs into my mind is like people's spiritual identities. They tend to silo their identities. Like, here's my work identity and my house identity, my father identity. Like, you're one
Mhm.
human being.
Mhm.
And, life is meant to be multifaceted. The sun is different in the morning than the evening. It's the same day, but there's a different position for the sun throughout the entire day. And I think that what Peter said, quoting the Naval thing, that the idea of balance, that this is another thing we need to know. It's like the drug commercials on TV. Do you find yourself twitching? Do you find yourself blinking more than 10 times a day? Well, ask your doctor about Blinkerol or whatever. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's just another thing that we have to worry about. And I see this oftentimes with the spiritual identity, where people like have their religious identity on a Sunday and their work identity on a Monday and their father identity. Like, I feel like I'm being a good parent right now by creating this content, because you never know, maybe one day my kids will see it, or the legacy that I'm leaving at my workplace, the kids will experience that. They'll know their name, that their name is being treated well because of the things I'm doing at work. And then, so it's always integrated for me. So don't think of time here as time away from somewhere else. It's just all the same to me.
Yeah.
So I never think that way. Obviously, work emergencies happen, family emergencies happen, and then you're all family or all work.
Mhm.
And then the
And
family.
it doesn't have to be an emergency though, Craig, I think.
Yeah.
Meaning give yourself some grace to know that, like, hey, I got
There's
this big
deadlines.
project, or
Yeah.
just open a new office, or I'm taking this new training, and I'm gonna be a shitty dad and shitty husband for a little while. Okay.
Yeah.
And it is okay.
Yeah.
Right. But
Being
like
okay
being
with it being
aware
okay.
about the other aspects. I think the most dangerous part is when you don't acknowledge the fact that when you're being unbalanced. Right.
Yeah.
And you don't,
I
and
think
you
we
just,
fool ourselves though, Peter, too. Sorry to cut you, but we fool ourselves by thinking we're being great fathers or great mothers by working really hard. It's like your kids just want more time with you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm going to work so you can have all this fancy stuff, or you can go on a vacation. Don't you appreciate that? Kids don't want that. Kids just want quality time. They could live in a trailer for most young kids and be happy.
there
So
can be so much to unpack here though, what you're just saying.
Yeah.
Just so we know. I mean, because
I hear another
more
episode
work
on.
head down could potentially lead to more time and money, right? So it's unbalanced for a period. If your ethos or your thesis is to create, is it's truly to create more time for your family, then there are going to be periods of head down, right?
Oh, I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
I just think there's a lot of people that go through life never, just always foot on the gas. I see a lot of affluent people here and a lot of screwed up kids. And I'm not saying there's a correlation, but invariably, because me, I'll ask anything of anyone, Peter, even the most sweaty back conversation, but I'll see like some 18-year-old meltdown on his dad, like, Dad, this is ridiculous. I want these veneers now. Like, like that from like a scene from Willy Wonka and that spoiled brat. What was her name again?
Veruca Salt.
Veruca Salt, like basically a modern day Veruca Salt. And I'll literally pull the father. I'm like, yeah, family's hard, huh? He's like, yeah, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. I'm like, yeah, I got little kids right now. What would be the one parenting piece of advice that you'd give me? And I'm asking in a sincere way, but invariably the recurring theme is, I felt a lot of these, at least it's anecdotal, but it's in my own experience, that what I saw, invariably it's highly successful guy making a lot of money, feeling guilty that they're not at home and buying presents for kids.
Yeah. So I love the perspective shift that you guys have there. And I've heard you talk about it before, because that really is,
It's pretty quick, by the way. The way they shift is pretty quick.
Yeah.
What you're going to say.
Well, but it's just, it's perspective. Like my dad was a dentist. He passed away at 65. I've talked about this before on this podcast. You guys don't know that.
We don't know that. No,
yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's okay. And as he died, he worked on Friday and died on Sunday. And he was so good at he wasn't balanced in the way that when he was home, he did his work. Like when he was home, he was studying dentistry, like all the time he was talking, but I knew that was value for him. Right. But I also knew as like, he was there for me as a kid. And it's really tricky as a dentist to sometimes do that. So I guess my question to you is, what advice do you have? It can be really overwhelming and time consuming to own a practice, especially at the level that you guys do. And
yeah, we kind of just to kind of get people up to speed.
Yeah.
I mean,
we even went over it. Yeah. We
Yeah,
just like, hi,
just
skip your
for, like,
bios. They're pretty
cri-
great. You should know.
well, they both are amazing, but just to remind everybody, I mean, Craig, he's running a 13,000 square foot office, right, in Florida. Peter has 7 locations in Georgia. These guys are,
Yeah, it's a lot.
it's not
Yeah.
like a two operatory that they're running.
Right.
You guys have a lot of team members and a lot of things going on, a lot of plates to be spinning. So
yeah,
this
what
comes
advice
into
do you
play.
have, I guess, for those that feel that their personal life suffers from stresses of running a dental practice? What have you done, I guess, to make it so that you can have that perspective shift?
Right, go ahead.
I think the first thing is it's easy for, I'm going to speak a little bit of like sex bias here. I think it's easy to speak as a man to this because men, we have a natural desire towards productivity. And I think it's easy for us to fill up all of our buckets at work because we're, especially in dental practice, especially, you have all these people that are dedicated to single doctor practice. You're the doctor, you're the guy in charge, or the gal in charge, I guess. And I think you can leave your family because your family keeps it real. When you're at work, you're special, you're the doctor, you're in charge of things, and everybody's there to support you. And it can be very egoic. And you can come home and, your family needs you, and it could feel not the same level of exchange. So I think there's a disease. Joe Rogan said it best. He says, many men live a life of quiet desperation. Joe Rogan is famous for saying that. And I think of men not having the ability to talk as much about how they feel. There's a degree of stoicism that's kind of passed through male culture. And I believe that we fill up at work. We fill up all of our needs and significance at work. And it will oftentimes leave daddy to come home exhausted for family and for wife. I think women, by virtue of biology and stuff like that, have a little bit more of a tug to, be with the kids and stuff like that. So whilst I'm sure women can overwork, and women have another thing that I talk about oftentimes too. It's very difficult. There's no clear role for them. They work too hard. They're being too aggressive. They work too little. They're a gold digger. They have to walk a very fine line. Men have a free pass to go in and work really hard. Daddy's working. Daddy's doing this for us. So I think there's a trap for us that we can really bury ourselves in work and leave our families adrift, because it's so culturally rewarded for us to be productive and work hard, and so acceptable for us to do that. So I see that. I see that in my own career. Like, I'm sure that presidents go home and, they might have done great things on the world stage, and then their wife is like, hey, but you left your socks on the floor. Like, I just got a Nobel Peace Prize, honey. Like, can I, we have, I don't know. That's just my thought, that there's like a little blind spot that we can get sucked into work as guys. I think that's and I'm sure girls can too. I just can't speak to it.
Right.
Okay, your question was, what advice do we have from running? Right. Right. Is it the pain points of?
Are you pointing out that I didn't answer the question, Peter?
No,
he's okay.
No,
He's
I mean,
good.
a little bit.
I agree.
A little bit. You don't
turn into
keep
the
Craig really on task. He will go off on these.
Well, no, my advice is that there's a blind spot. So advice for me is,
you could have said that in like 2 sentences, by the way, instead of like 12.
But this is a podcast.
It was more than 12. It was like 26.
You know that we don't say things in 2 sentences on a podcast.
Yeah. Peter would value it if this podcast was just 4 minutes.
It was
Okay.
bullet points.
This is a bulletproof bullet point type of thing.
Oh,
what is that? What is that behind you that you have? Is that Tilex, Peter? What spray bottle is that? Your lower.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a Febreze. Yeah, probably. We have a new puppy in the house. So
oh, that's right, the puppy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So back to the question with you, Dr.
Peter.
Boulden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 sentences or less.
No, I mean, if you want to, but I've heard you talk about, and maybe you'll talk about it, but I've heard you talk about how you block your day.
Mhm.
I don't know if that is advice that you would give, but I love that idea of blocking out time. And just because, I mean, as in dentistry, we live in blocks of time anyway, and to be able to do that at home, I do that as well, That's how I function. It's how I block out as a working full-time mom. I block out my time at home, with my kids and with my work, and that's how I live. So
it creates guidelines, right? It creates boundaries for people. Like Craig and I set podcasting for a certain time every week. So I try to pre-block my schedule. Like for instance, Wednesdays, nothing can get on there because I've already blocked it personally for me. That's my day to recharge midweek. I go get a massage, go get my nails done, whatever.
Ooh, you shouldn't have let that out.
That's a joke.
Why
dude.
not?
I don't know.
I
Put
love
your
getting
nose
my
to the
nails
camera. I want
done.
to see because
Go get my nails done. Go get, my
your
eyebrows
hairs
cut.
did.
My hairs did.
He's from Atlanta. You got to talk like that. That's Atlanta.
But so that's just an example of kind of pre-blocking. But going back to I think what you're saying is like, what advice do you have for running complexities? That is a good tool into laying down guidelines, but it is tough because, for instance, the people listening to your pod are probably people who are much like ours, right? They're entrepreneurs in a dental job or a dental career, right? A dental practice. And so you have the business of dentistry during the day and the business of growing your business after you're done the dentistry, right? So where does the line stop?
Yeah.
Where does the
Yes.
line stop? Now, if you just want to kind of run along and be a dentist, which is admirable, and just kind of like stay with your practice, like you do the dentistry and you go home, and everything seems to take care of itself. By the grace of God, it really does in dentistry. Because if you're good, you can kind of like you can exist and have a great career by not having to do much. If you're in a growth-minded standpoint, you do have to take the next 5 hours after you get off work, because you're going to have to go from here to here, right? And what got you here isn't going to get you here. And so you need a different set of skills now that are going to take you next level. And that's what Craig and I actually focus on in the Bulletproof Mastermind and Bulletproof Podcast, is kind of taking the business of dentistry and applying it as with the least amount of friction possible, because Craig and I have made a lot of frictionable mistakes, if you will, right? And so we've stood on the shoulders of giants, and we want to give back, and they just kind of like, that's our mission, is just say, hey, if you want to grow, here's some things that have helped us. But I think it's going back to your original question, Katie, and Craig's about to bust on me for now being long-winded, is that it just depends on where you are, right? So if the advice that we're going to give is probably going to only resonate with dentist who is looking to kind of create what we have created, right? A giant monster practice like Craig, a johnster, or or multiple locations like I have.
And I think there's also stress too, Peter, in the hijacking of people's beliefs as well. So like the dental industry is rife with consultancies, finger quotes, of saying, this is what you should do. This is the 5 steps, the 4 steps is what you need to do. And then friction comes from that. Like, oh, I paid, Joe Schmo, 25 grand. He's going to teach me how to scale this. And you never wanted to scale. You like being like what my dad was, Katie. My dad was a dentist,
dad was too.
And your dad. And they would have been miserable. They would have been miserable scaling. So
the other thing, so you're bringing up a great point, Craig. And this is something we've gone into a lot recently, is kind of just knowing your strengths, Katie and Curtis, knowing your strengths, like knowing that you stink at hiring. So stop hiring. Like, let someone else do that. Like, find your superpower and double down on that, because what it'll give you is a lot more purpose, a lot more freedom, all these things. And then it'll actually accelerate your business. I used to be the bottleneck in my practice. Honestly, looking back, I was a bottleneck in that I was the nucleus in almost all decisions, all things. Now I don't want to be involved. I don't even want to know. I almost stop. I always ask questions when someone comes to me. It's like, do I need to know this, or do I need to be involved? And they will actually audit that. They'll have to give me an answer. If the answer is yes, let's talk about it. But 9 times out of 10 or 4 times out of 5, it's no, you're right. I got this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That takes a lot of
self-aware, kind of what Craig was talking about.
Yeah, because a lot of dentists, when they start their little baby from the ground up, their practice, they got to be involved in everything.
Yeah, we are control freaks, right? Yeah. But look at what we do. We control the margins of our crown. If we're off by a half of a millimeter, we are a failure today, right? So we are micromanaging, like we are crazy. We are crazy.
Yeah,
we're neurotic craftsmen.
The very act of being a dentist gears you away from the macro that's needed to really make bigger decisions.
Yeah.
So it's like your life is under loops, literally.
So do you actively, I'm just thinking of actionably, how do you do that? Do you actively take an inventory of like, okay, you sit down maybe and what do they do? Sit down and take an inventory of these are the things that I'm good at. And these are the things I'm going to pass off. Like, because I would imagine at the beginning of the year,
Kind of like the pros
January
and cons,
2022, that would be a good time to do it.
Craig, I'll
I
go if you
remember
want.
doing that when I was a kid.
I'll go if you want, or Craig, if you want to speak.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
So Katie, what I did or have done in the past is because sometimes I used to go home and play the woe is me game, right? Like, look at all this stuff I did and all this stuff. And a lot of times it was stuff that I didn't really want to be doing or wasn't good at, but I took as this like badge of honor, like, look at me, look at this suffering I'm doing for my family and my future. So I made myself, a lot of my day now is spent getting rid of things that I don't enjoy doing anything. So I would audit and write down all the things that I was doing during the day. And then I identified the things that like probably should be with someone else because either I A, hated them or B, wasn't very good at them. And so that my actions became, how do I get this off of my daily sheet? Now I don't do that. If I don't do stuff I don't want to do. And ironically, the things I am doing, I'm really good at. Why? Because I like doing them. It's this virtuous cycle.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So,
and by the way,
like,
I don't want anybody to hear Peter. I know, I just want to make sure that no one hears him as saying this as like egotistical, or I delegate taking out the trash. He's not talking about that. He's talking about there's certain things that people in his organization love to do. Like Peter and I are both lower detail people. We're high vision. We want to win. We're fast paced, but the details, let someone else figure that out. So Peter and I have come to realize that if we're surrounded by high detail people, like a Lacey who works in Bulletproof Organization, for example, we can get a lot of things done. Lacey is high detail. She loves figuring out all the little things. So if we're working on a summit or something like that, she'll love figuring out all the little details. Peter and I would die doing that. And Peter and I get to focus on the stuff that we're good at. So it's not a hierarchical thing. It's not like I am king and they're serfs. It's just that it's a strength finder type of exercise. We've done a lot of work to find out what we're good at and stay in those lanes.
Thanks for the clarity. That is important. You are right.
But I just didn't want people to be like, oh, Peter's so fancy. He doesn't have to take, like, I don't like filling up gas. So I have my, no, it's not that. He's just sticks to the stuff he's really, really good at. And then at the end of the day, he's worked really hard, but only the stuff he's really good at. He's not as exhausted as if he was trying to pretend to be good at everything.
Right.
Because-
I think this also goes back to like, I don't know. Do you guys know Dan Sullivan, Katie? I know you're into marketing.
Yeah.
I love marketing.
So he talks about, and Curtis, you're in marketing, right? So he talks about the 4 freedoms, right? Freedom of time, freedom of money, for relationship, and purpose. And so those personally for me were quests, right? Going back to what you were saying, Craig, I want to work on the stuff that I want to work on, right? I want to work because I not have forced to make money, is because I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I want to work with relationships. I want to work with people that I like, not because I'm forced to do that. So this kind of can become a driver as well. I don't know why I went on that tangent. I just think it's important, kind of what we're talking about contextually.
I don't know if you have anything else to add. I got a lot out of that, like a lot out of that. And I hope that the people that are listening did too. I mean, the new year 2022 to really evaluate.
I think the biggest thing is when you look at anything, balancing anything, whether take personal out of this, right? You're balancing a car, making sure that the wheels are balanced or whatnot, whatever it might be. You're focusing, you can't focus on everything at once. You need to focus on one specific thing at a time. And if you're able to do that, then everything else starts to get in a line.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to do everything, which this is both Craig and Peter are saying, if you're trying to, like on a car, if you're trying to bounce all 4 tires at the exact same time, good luck. You're not going to get there. Or it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
But if you do one at a time,
There's a book called Essentialism, which probably a lot of people have read, but it talks about that, how you really can, our human beings are really unable to focus on more than one thing at a time.
Totally.
They're unable to. So that's even another
there's a
great
myth of multitasking, Katie, is what you're saying. And that is, humans are not designed to multitask. All you do is do a bunch of things really.
And as a woman, like, we pride ourselves in the fact that we can multitask.
You're right.
But we
that
can.
is a myth.
Yeah, it's a myth. Yeah.
And I think that we're touching on something else, like this realization that you're not meant to be good at all this stuff.
Yes.
That provides a little bit more grace for people and a little bit more understanding, then people suffer less and actually become happier. So, the balance is this idea that you need to be in balance, that you need to be a multitasker, you need to be a CEO, you need to do all this stuff. It's daunting, and you're not meant to be good at everything. And I think it's an important realization that you have to come to.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll find out what you're good at, what makes you happy, and just double down on that, because that's life's ultimate bottom line is that what makes you happy. So if you're working 5 days,
that is the work-life balance,
That's our
Yeah.
tagline.
right?
That's our
Because maybe
tagline for today.
working super hard is making you happy.
yeah,
Right.
Maybe that
is
truly
your
is.
balance. Right.
Correct, Peter.
There you go.
Bingo.
Yeah. Well, this has been super great. And we've taken up about 30 minutes of their time. So I'll let them go.
Yeah,
I
thank
know,
you,
too
guys.
bad. But really, really.
Wait,
Oh, I
your
thought this was
podcast
2
only
hours.
30 minutes.
Yes.
I thought this
What?
was 2.5 hours. I thought we're
Like,
doing.
Craig is just getting warmed up. Don't you
I
know?
know. If you want to listen to a long form podcast, I have a really great one that I recommend. It's called Bulletproof.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
I've heard of it.
Oh, you
I
think
heard
we're
of it.
long formatted now, huh? Okay. Now see,
Well,
now I get
compared to
offended
20
either way you
minutes.
go, Katie.
Well, that's typically my personality. So
I'm kidding.
So we have 2 listeners. Okay. Well, this has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Again, special thanks to our guests, Dr. Spodak and Dr. Boulden. You can find them again at their podcast, Bulletproof. Actually,
Yeah, before we
Bulletproof
go
Dental
there, Katie,
Practice.
Katie's
Yes.
no,
jumping.
I'm jumping ahead.
She's jumping.
I'm going to cut that out and go back again because we almost missed our most important question, which
That
we ask
we've got
everybody,
to ask every
Yes.
time.
which is
This is
what-
now a long form. Now, boom.
No,
just hit long
it's no,
form.
it
Don't
won't be,
worry,
'cause
guys.
it'll
You
be
guys
quick.
will get better at this. Don't worry.
I don't think we will, but thank you, Peter.
I'm not even going to cut this out actually
Just
because I won't.
kidding, y'all.
I'm not going
just
to.
kidding.
Nothing of this should be cut out.
I'm
We
not
don't cut
going to.
anything out.
Okay,
Yeah, don't cut.
so growth is personal and it can mean so many different things to different people. And we ask the same question to everybody. And I've heard you guys talk about this before. So I'm really glad that you reminded me. What does growth in dentistry look like to Craig Spodak and to Peter Boulden right now? And it can be personal or it can be,
Yeah, whatever it looks like to you.
Yeah.
What does
Craig, can
growth
you
in
go
dentistry
ahead
look
so
like
that
to
I
you?
can just piggyback on what you said, please?
Yeah, or you can go ahead. I'm fine with that.
Like it means so many different things to so many different
Yeah.
people. Right? Is
Yes.
it personal growth in dentistry, or is
whatever.
it
What does
just,
growth look
Yeah,
what
like
does
to
it
you
that's
growth
right
the
now?
mean
question.
to me?
To right now,
Yeah.
like
You.
what are
So-
you working on?
And to Peter.
So
Yeah.
growth, I can't answer growth in dentistry
Mhm.
because dentistry, like I always say,
Is you.
it's a snowflake. It's everybody's practice is entirely different. And I think if we
Mhm.
could start understanding that dialogue at a bigger level, that dental practices are uniquely suited to the owners and leaders of those individual practices and can be whatever they want it to be. So I can't answer to that, but like for me, growth is just progress, slowly getting better. Change is always going to happen. Whether or not you grow from it is up to you. So going through life and getting slightly better, whether that means dealing with the downs or the highs better, that's what the key to life and the key to happiness is just growth over time. And I don't think failure is anything to be ashamed of.
Mm.
Failure is just growth in action. So that's my thought.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
So I think growth in dentistry would be, I'm going to piggyback on that, Greg, because I think that's good.
Mhm.
Is that identifying where you're from a self-awareness thing, what does it look like? So I'm going to talk about, for me, what it grows like is growing my enterprise, right? I like foot on the gas. I like building. I like designing. I like visionary stuff. So growth for me is continuing to grow my ecosystem, whether
Mhm.
that's my own practices or whether that's a DSO or whether that's whatever. It's continuing to evolve to make dentistry a better place.
Yeah, I love it.
Both are fantastic.
both are
and
fantastic
True. I
answers.
like how Craig mentioned it is a snowflake, and this is why dentistry is to everyone is a snowflake. It's different, and that's why we ask this question.
And dentistry is such a different occupation for a lot of people than others because
It's the most
dentistry-
beautiful profession in the
is.
world. Here's
It-
can I jump on
Yes,
this,
go
Katie?
for it. Yeah.
Here's why. It's because we talked about the dentist who wants to be the craftsman and just be in his office and work, and he can make a great living and be
And
very
art.
fulfilled and can
Make
go
art
home
all
and
the
study
time.
more dentistry.
Mhm.
He can be the artist in that. It also fulfills the buckets of the entrepreneur, someone like me who really went to dental school knowing like, yeah, I'm going to do dentistry for a while. and then I'm going to really grow things. Right. And so it gives you, it's the most beautiful thing because you're always making impact in people's lives. You're really respected in your community and you can do whatever you want. There's no
And you
ceiling
can, and
on
you
what
can
you want to do.
transform, like even within all those sectors, you can transform. So you can take
100%.
on additional, so you could be the restorative dentist that moves to another area and become a cosmetic dentist, to becoming a sleep apnea dentist, functional TMJ dentist.
There's
Then
no
you can go
rules.
grow a bunch of practice and say, been there, done that. I want to go back to being a cosmetic dentist. Like you could reinvent your career over and over and over. I mean, if you're selling cars, no offense to the car salesman out there, you're selling cars. Whether you sell a BMW, you're selling a Toyota, it's still selling cars. Dentistry is entirely different in
But
oral.
it gives you what you want. It
Right.
gives you
Yeah.
what you want as long as you work at that, right? You know, so
We're lucky to-
Sounds like dentistry is America's occupation.
it really is. Like honestly, it's I wouldn't
America
change
runs on
anything.
dentistry. Is that going to get us in
I
trouble?
wouldn't change anything. Even looking back and living life in
Hey,
reverse,
actually-
I would have been a dentist again.
As far as from an economic standpoint, they do watch dentists and dental practices to see how the health of the economy is doing. So it really is.
Interesting.
It's a great profession. But I also want to just hit on the fact that people in dentistry, it's us. It's how we identify. So it's really like you said, Dr. Spodak, it's hard to separate those. Growth in dentistry is you, right? It's just part of who you are. So I really love that. Again,
Thanks, Peter.
thank you
Thanks,
so
Peter.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us ask that last question. You can find a
Sorry, I
podcast.
cussed on your podcast too, Katie. I realize that you
It's
are
okay.
in
We're in a
LDS
clean-
Central
we're-
and land.
We have a
and
clean
that is-
filter
so
on.
you-
That's okay.
Oh, I wish you would have
Okay.
told me that earlier.
You
No,
didn't-
we're glad
I
you
didn't hear a
did.
single F
You're
bomb.
really-
Okay, good. No,
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to go there. No, God,
Okay.
no. All
All
right.
right. You can find them at the Bulletproof podcast. Gosh,
Katie, you're gonna-
dang it.
Are you going to promote our summit, by the way?
Oh, you can. I don't
I
have
can.
it. Yeah, the only information I got was, just tell them that you can find them at info at
But we still have a
Bulletproof
couple
Dental
tickets.
Practice.
Katie, you
Yeah,
know
but-
now we have a bulletproof hygiene book now, right?
Yes, I
Well,
do.
We don't, but our hygiene gals do, and they
Yes,
are
uh-huh.
amazing, and they are more impressive than we.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But so this summer, so every year we have a conference. Last year it was in Austin, Texas. And I think Weston said he was going to come to that, Craig.
Personal
And-
joke for everybody else.
And
then.
no, actually, I think he really did say that.
No, he's coming to
and-
our next one for sure, though.
And
any-
this
This
so
year's
anyway,
in Nashville, guys,
This
and
year's in
we still have a
Nashville.
couple tickets left. It's January 4th and 5th.
no, it's
Oh.
June,
January.
but it's June.
Oh my
4th
God, did I
and
just say
5th.
January? I need lunch, guys. I'm getting low blood sugar. It
Let
is
me
June.
handle. But hey, can you let me handle this?
Yeah.
logistics?
Can we let's edit this whole part out? Just edit me out of the whole damn podcast.
I'm not
That's what
going to.
All right. Go ahead, Peter. Sorry.
June 4th and 5th in Nashville. And the beautiful thing about this versus any other conference is, in my opinion, is that it's geared towards the team and what you're saying, Katie, growing in dentistry, whether that's the systems, that's the business, that's the marketing, that's the team, that's the alignment, that's the culture, that's the vision. All these things we cover through something called a bulletproof pathway, which goes through the whole life cycle of a dentist, wherever you are in growing your business. But we encourage people to bring teams. So we have a bulletproof hygiene track, we have a bulletproof team track, we have all these things so that you then leave the conference with this massive alignment coming home where you're not the only one rowing the boat anymore. So it takes the hard work out of coming home from the 3-day conference that you went to by yourself and then
Right.
come into the dentist all on Monday morning, like, this is up, everybody. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do.
And
Everyone's like, just give him till Thursday. He'll be
Yep.
done. Right. But now you get come home with the power of the people. And now you get to row the boat towards all these things you want to do. So we are really proud of it. It's really well done. It's high end. And I'm saying this because I think we're both really proud of what we created. And because magic happens when you put people in a room that are all wanting kind of the same thing, right? To better their lives, better their practice, better the lives around them, better their employees, all these things. So it's really exciting. So it's bulletproofsummit.com. And it will
Okay.
sell out. Every year it has sold out. I'm not saying that but it's, right now we just launched it. It's 6 months away and it's a third way gone. And we just put it
Wow.
out in a month. So
Well, there you go. Put that on your calendars, June 4th and 5th, and we'll put that link on our show notes and also at dentalintel.com with visiting our podcast webpage as well. So thank you again for joining us for me today. Thank you, Curtis, for being here with me.
Always.
And thank you. I hope we can have you on again, even if it's not
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah, we're big fans of everybody adding value to dentistry. So thanks for what you're doing. And we're big fans of what you guys are doing at Dental Intel as well. So thank you guys.
Totally.